Hey there, welcome to Coaching Genius Lives. It's Motivation Monday, so every single Monday we're coming to you, giving you a nugget of truth, a nugget of to inspire you, to motivate you, to create change, maybe to give you hope for the week. So every Monday, what we want to do in a little sharing here, it's really to just create a shift in our minds, right? There isn't much going on. I just want you to hear what are some thoughts that you can ruminate on this coming week. And the topic for today, it's really about having courage to face the giants. What really is courage? When we think about courage, do we think of courage as the thing that I need to conjure up, or the thing that the essence that only certain people have, or is courage just only for a certain group of people? Could we all have courage? Do we all have courage? And are we born with courage, or is courage nurtured over time? Well, really, what courage is, it's not an essence that you try to get. It's not only for an elite few people. We all need courage, and especially in this pandemic that we are facing, sometimes some of us run into business challenges, some of us run into workspace challenges, some of us run into challenges in our relationships as well. So all of us experience different challenges. And I would say these challenges are like giants, and you can call them with different names. And you think about this. Giants, when we look at giants, they seem insurmountable. They seem like mountains that is so hard to scale, so hard to climb, so hard to overcome, so hard to conquer. And it feels almost as if we have no strength to face those mountains. And it feels almost that we have no strength, and our strength is being drained as we face those giants as well. So how do we overcome this? How do we move ourselves forward? How do we actually find hope, find courage, and find help, and find a sense that, hey, we will get there, we will get through this. When we face all the situations, the first thing we need to know is this: we're not going there alone. We may be by ourselves, but we're never alone. We're never truly alone. Why? Because there's always a voice of truth. The voice of truth will always tell a different story. Right now, you're hearing the voice of lies. The voice of lies is telling you that, hey, the giants are big, just back off. The mountains are too tall to scale, just step down. The challenge is too large. Just reside in where you are. We got to change the language. We got to see things from a whole new perspective. And the first stage to help you gain courage is to just step out and step up, and just to face it. Courage is not about something to try to overcome. No, courage is even while you're afraid. It's okay to be afraid. It's okay to be fearful. But what do you do with that fear? What do you do with that afraidness? It's just to face it. One of the challenging things about courage is not about avoiding all those things. Courage is to say, hey, I'm afraid, right? I'm afraid. I'm scared right now. I'm fearful right now. But am I going to allow the fears, the trepidation, the uncertainty to overwhelm me? Or am I going to overwhelm them? Am I going to take this as bread for my tomorrow? Or am I just going to allow this to just overcome me in totality? What am I going to do with that? Well, there was an ancient story on the story of David and Goliath. In this story, we discover this little boy, David. He was just a shepherd boy. And he was going about his business, and he has several brothers as well. And one day, there was a giant. His name was Goliath. That's coming to the valley of Elah, challenging the whole land, the people of the land. And what happened was this: David was actually preparing, was tending the sheep, and his brothers was there in the forefront. And the brothers and the team of army soldiers, together with King Saul, who was the king in charge of all the army then, they were afraid. They were definitely afraid of this giant that's coming to threaten them. So this giant was taunting them all the time. He was larger, bigger, he had armor, he has shields, he got spear, and he was really threatening them. So every single day, this giant would come down to the valley and taunt them. He would shout, he would cry out to them and say, "Come, face me." Right? Send your best warrior, come and face me. Right? If you win, we will be your dogs. We will be your servant. If we win, you will be our servants. You will obey us. So every single day, they're seeing this giant coming down and shouting at them, and they're hearing this again and again and again and again and again. Fear. The secret about fear is this: we all need to know, right? We all need to know what's fear's greatest fear. Greatest fear is the ability to hear. Now, because the giant, every single day, he comes down the mountain and declares out again and again and again on these people, they begin to hear this message. This giant is big. He is taunting us. He's not afraid of us. He's coming to us. When I look left, I look right, I look all around me. My men, my brothers, and my sisters are not. They don't have the strength to move forward. So guess what? I'm going to stay here. I'm going to stay here. What if that giant overcomes me? I cannot take that kind of pressure. I cannot take that kind of fear. So the giant's words were not impactful. But what was more powerful was not the words of the giant, but were the words and the voice on the inside of every one of them. They were amplifying the voice of the giant on the inside of them, making them seem like little grasshoppers in the eyes of the giants. And so they were. As they see themselves, so they became. Today, how do we see ourselves in our situations? Maybe you're facing a crisis right now. Maybe you're facing a challenge in business. Maybe you're facing a challenge in relationships. Maybe you're facing a challenge at home, in your own personal life as well. Whatever challenge you're facing, what are you hearing? It's not about the challenge that's speaking out. What is the voice saying on the inside of you? It's the voice repeating what is said on the outside. Or are you preventing the voice from saying the things that it needs to say on the inside? So know this, right? Fear comes through hearing. The more we hear the words, the more fear traps us, the more fear grips us. Because fear's greatest secret is that it enters through the power of listening. So what you're listening to today will really matters. And what you're listening to will either give you courage or will put you in a state of fear. So many people will not be able to step out because they're hearing the words of the enemy. What words are we hearing from the enemy today? Well, you're not enough. You cannot do it. Well, you're no one. Nobody understands you. Nobody knows you, right? Who are you? Who are you to be there? Who are you to speak? Who are you to coach? Who are you to create conversations? Nobody knows us. Nobody knows you at all. So when we hear these words and we hear all these phrases, we think to ourselves, oh, maybe it's not possible for me. Maybe life is just not possible. And what happens is this: we begin to ruminate on those fears. We begin to ruminate on the voices of untruths. We begin to ruminate the voices of the enemies. And what happens when we ruminate on that? It amplifies within ourselves. And what happens in our vision? Our vision becomes dull. Our vision becomes myopic. Our vision becomes fainty because we begin to see things as though we are smaller, as though we are small. So how then do we overcome this today? Well, the story didn't stop there. So all the army were facing the giants and they were definitely afraid. They had a king. The king's name was King Saul. He was head and shoulders above every single person over there, and he was a man of war. He was a warrior. He could face giants. There's no problem in that. But even for King Saul, he was hiding. So all these people were hearing the words of the giant repeating again and again for every single day. But there was one little boy. He was a shepherd boy tending sheep, right? And he didn't hear the voice. He didn't hear that. So one day, as he was coming to give some cheese and bread to the brothers, and he overheard the giant, shouting in the valley and said, come to me, you guys, come to me, send out the best warriors, come to me. And then this little boy, his name David, he said this, right? David the shepherd said, who's that person? Why is he saying these things against us, right? We are people, we are God's people, and how dare he say this thing to us? And guess what happens? When fear grips your heart, you turn your very words to become the voice of the enemy. So I say that again. When fear grips your heart, your very words supports and amplifies the enemy's own words. So what happened was this: the brothers began to criticize David. They say, David, you shouldn't be here in the battlefield. You should be at home. You should be taking care of the sheep. Who's taking care of the sheep, right? How can you be here? We are here. We're fighting a fight, and you should not be here, right? Go back home. This is only for doubts. This is not for you. This is a battlefield. You should not be here. Guess what happened? The brothers were amplifying the fears on the inside of them. The brothers were amplifying the thoughts, the ideas of the enemies. Now, guess what happens? They wanted to overcome the enemy, but now their very words are being taken over by the enemies, and now they're proclaiming the very voice of the enemy. That's how subtle and how dangerous the voice of fear can really do to our lives. So today, I like to just encourage all of us here, whatever you're going through, it doesn't matter what you're facing right now. The giants may be saying things, and it may have already impacted your own voice. You may have shouted at your loved ones. You may have screamed at your team. You may have arguments with your bosses. You may have challenges in business, or your contractors or your partners. You may have all these different challenges, and this is not your voice. You must recognize this. It is not your voice. It may be coming out from your mouth, but it's not you. That is the voice of fear. That's the voice of anger. That's the voice of sadness. That's the voice of defeat. Today, we're going to raise up a new standard. We're going to raise up a new banner. We're going to raise up a new hope. We're going to turn that fear around to our greatest faith. We're going to turn the voice of the enemies into the voice of truth. What is the voice of truth? Because the voice of truth will tell a different story. So let's take a look at David. So David was saying this, hey, that's not right, right? I know who I am. I know who I belong to. This giant there, he doesn't know his place. We're going to get him back to his place. We're going to get him back to the foreground. We're going to get him back, to where he used to belong. So what David did was this. He said, I will face this giant, right? If nobody's going to face him, I'm going to face him. So right there, King Saul heard the message, and when King Saul invited David to see him, King Saul said this. He said, hey, David, take my armor, right? It will help you along the way. And when David tried on the armor of King Saul, he couldn't fit in because the armor was too big for him. And David said this to King Saul. He said, hey, as much as I respect you, but I cannot take your armor, right? I will go with my shepherd staff. I will go with my slingshot. I will go with what I'm used to. Now, there's a lesson here for us to learn. As we're trying to take up courage, to seize up courage within ourselves, do not take on another person's armor. Do not take on another's armor. Be comfortable with yourself. Be comfortable, be confident with who you are, right? Even with the fear, even with the anxiety, be confident in your own armor. We don't have to take on another person's armor. Even the armor may look great, but it may not look good on you. It may look great on another person, it may feel great on another person, but on you it may be a different story because all of us are unique individuals. You all have your own voice. So bring on your own armor. David's own armor was his staff, his slingshot. That's what he used to chase away the bears, the lions, right? So he said this, he declared this to the people, right? I chased away the bears, I chased away the lions, and was all taking care of the sheep. Who is this, ugly giant? I'm going to take him down today. So David went down the banks, picked up 5 smooth stones, and then he faced the giant, and the giant began to laugh. Right? Who is this young boy? Who is this that you're trying to mock me? Are you trying to mock me to bring this young boy in front of me? Right? He's not even a child of warrior. How can you bring him to me? As the giant laughed, David took up that slingshot. He began to spin the slingshot because he's very used to that, right? He began to spin the slingshot and he ran towards the giant, and whoosh, that stone went straight to the forehead of the giant, and the giant came tumbling down. It really hit in precision. It struck the giant at his forehead and where the elevator was. So many researchers tell us this, many scholars will tell us this. At the point when Goliath was laughing, his helmet might have gone loose, and that gave the bronze helmet a lift for David to swing that stone nicely and hit his skull on the forehead, causing him to collapse, causing him to go into a state of unconsciousness. And at the point, David went on the giant because he had no sword with him. He went to take the giant's sword and decapitated the giant. Now, so the story here is this. David was already using the skills at his hand. What I want all of us to know is this. All of us have a gift in our hands. That gift, the gift of hope, the gift of courage, the gift of truth, you all have that gift. Whatever's on our hands. We don't have to say that, hey, if only I had that, if only I had Saul's armor, if only I had that sword, if only I was bigger, if only I was taller, if only I was this, and only I was that. David was none. David was smaller, he was inexperienced, he was nothing. But what he knew was this. He knew he could trust his own God. He knew he could trust that all his experience that he had, he knew he can trust in that because that's who he was. He wasn't trying to be someone else. He wasn't trying to take on another armor. He was just trying to be himself. That's who he is. His strong belief in it. And with his strong belief, that is what we call the verve. The verve, the resolve on the inside of David becomes clear and demonstrated when David launched that slingshot into the giant. So when the giant came coming down, all of the people fled, all the enemies fled. The voice of truth won that day. The voice of truth was telling a different story. Everyone else was fearing, but David was the voice of truth. Within himself, is coming out from himself and saying, hey, it doesn't matter what you're saying, right? You might come to me with a sword and spear, but I come to you in the name of Lord of hosts, right? Who you have defiled. So David was very clear about who he belonged to, whom he belonged to, and what he really believed in. And he was so congruent with who he was. And when he's saying that, he wasn't doubting himself. At that moment, we notice absolute congruence, absolute clarity, absolute alignment. He faced fear in its own eyes. It's that fear in its own eyes and telling fear, hey, listen, I'm not going to hear the words of you. I'm not going to hear the words of the negative words you're saying. I'm going to hear the voice of truth. And the voice of truth is coming in a different story. I'm going to face fear head on. I'm not going to back away. I'm not going to allow you to run to me. I'm going to run to you. I'm going to run head on to you. I'm going to launch my best slingshot. I'm going to be precise. I'm going to launch you down and knock you down. Today, I will encourage all of you who are listening to this. What are those challenges that you're facing? Are we running away from it? Or are we running towards it? What is our weapon at hand? What are the resources that you already have? We're not trying to build new resources. We already have those resources. You already have the gift within you to overcome that. You already have the power to overcome that. You already have the energy. You already have the vitality, the hope, the dexterity to overcome these challenges. You already have all that's within you. It's more than able to overcome that challenge. Today, when we look at fear, we don't allow fear to overwhelm us. We look at fear, we stand in fear and say, hey, you come to me with a sword and spear. I come to you with all that I have within me. I'm going to overcome you. I'm going to overrun you because guess what, fear? You have no power over me. I'm not going to speak your words. I'm going to speak my words. I'm going to speak the words on the inside of who I truly am. I'm not going to let those negative words or fearful words to take a grip on my heart. I'm going to take a positive grip. I'm going to take an encouraging, uplifting grip. I'm going to hold that true to my heart. I'm going to face you. I'm going to face you with courage and with hope, and with total presence here right now. I'm going to have the courage to face you right now. I'm going to say to all these giants, I'm going to say to all these mountains, you may be one mountain, you may be one giant. I'm going to conquer you one at a time. I'm going to conquer you with all of you, all and every single one of them. Today, what is the voice of truth? What are you telling yourself on the inside of you? Yes, it will be challenging. You will still feel that fear, which is okay. Right? But courage is facing fear in its face. Courage is facing doing it even though you're still fearful. Courage is just taking up the stick, taking up the slingshot, taking up that one step forward, even though you know it's scary. And that's what courage is. Today, I would encourage all of you here as you're listening to this, live believing, dreams are for weaving, wonders are waiting to start. I remember this song. It's a beautiful song sang in 1988 from A Story of the Land Before Time. In this song, it goes like this, right? Live your story, faith, hope, and glory. Wonders are waiting to start. If we hold on together, I know dreams will never die. Dreams see us through to forever. So today, never let your dreams die. Never let your hopes die. Even in the midst of chaos, even in the midst of uncertainty, let the voice of uncertainty out and let the voice of certainty rise up on the inside. Let the voice of truth rise up from the inside. Let the voice of hope rise up from the inside. Let the voice of destiny rise up from the inside today. I hope my words will encourage, someone out there listening to this, whatever it is, right? I hope and I pray that today, when you face those giants, don't allow those giants to overcome you. Don't allow their words to taunt you, because guess what? The giant's secret weapon is to use their words against you. And what is your secret weapon? Is to encourage yourself. Today, you with your own words. What you say to yourself is going to be really important. So if you get a chance, tell yourself this. right? I'm not going to. I'm going to turn fear around. I'm going to turn this situation. I'm going to turn fear around to faith. I'm going to turn away this sadness. I'm going to turn it around. I'm going to turn around all the negativity. I'm going to turn around all the uncertainty, all for my good. I'm going to turn around the volatility to add it to my advantage. I'm going to turn around all those things. I'm going to allow the voice of truth to make a stand today. I'm going to hear the voice of truth, because the voice of truth will tell a different story. Whatever the story the enemy is telling us, we're going to turn it around. Because guess what? This is one secret I always tell all my clients. Whether you're a coach there listening to this, whether you're a leader listening to this, whatever the enemy is telling us today, those are not true words. Those are the words from the enemy's mouth. Today, I want us to tell ourselves this. Tell ourselves that, hey, I'm more than able. I can overcome this. I have all that I have within me that is able to overcome this, right? I trust that every single resources that I need, I will have when I face that mountain. Live your story today. Be courageous by being, just by facing the giants head on, facing your fears head on, because guess what? We are here with you, here for you. And that's why this conversation matters a lot today. On this Monday, this Monday morning, I just hope that this message will go out to as many people as possible. The courage to face your giants. In the world of complexity, in the world of chaos, in the world of volatility, how do we change those words? You begin by taking one step forward and declaring from the inside of yourself that the voice of truth is telling a different story today. The voice of truth is telling a different story. Turn that story from the enemy around, because the enemy is trying to rob you away from your joy. The enemy is trying to rob you away from your presence. The enemy is trying to rob you away from your glory. Today, whatever the enemy is saying, that's because the enemy doesn't want you to have those gifts. Turn that around and you're going to tell yourself this. The voice of truth says this. I am. So fill in those blanks. I am. So whatever the enemy says, you are not this, you are not this. Turn it around and says, I am this, I am that. I'm strong, I'm able, I'm capable, I'm more than able. I have a good relationship. I can do this. I am enough. Tell yourself this. The voice of truth will tell a different story. I hope that this Monday morning motivation has encouraged you. I hope that, and I pray that it's helped you uplift your spirit. And I hope that this journey that you're going forward will really be an encouraging one. I look forward to hearing from some of you, right? And I'll always encourage anyone to write into us at Coaching Genius Lives. My name is Jedi here. I look forward to serving you in our coming meetings, our coming online sessions as well. This is Motivation Monday. We'll see you in the next Monday as well.